The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Two of the disciples of Jesus were on their way to a village called Emmaus, 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they were talking together about all that had happened. Now, as they talked this over, Jesus himself came up and walked by their side, but something prevented them from recognizing him. He said to them, "What matters are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped short, their faces downcast. Then one of them, called Cleopas, answered him, "You must be the only person staying in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have been happening there these last few days." "What things?" he asked. "All about Jesus of Nazareth," they answered, "who proved he was a great prophet by the things he said and did in the sight of God and of the whole people, and how our chief priests and our leaders handed him over to be sentenced to death and had him crucified. Our own hope had been that he would be the one to set Israel free. And that is not all. 2 whole days have gone by since it all happened, and some women from our group have astounded us. They went to the tomb in the early morning, and when they did not find the body, they came back to tell us they had seen a vision of angels who declared he was alive. Some of our friends went to the tomb and found everything exactly as the women had reported, but of him they saw nothing." Then he said to them, "You foolish men, so slow to believe the full message of the prophets. Was it not ordained that the Christ should suffer and so enter into his glory?" Then, starting with Moses and going through all the prophets, he explained to them the passages throughout the scriptures that were about himself. When they drew near to the village to which they were going, he made as if to go on, but they pressed him to stay with them. "It is nearly evening," they said, "and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. Now while he was with them at the table, he took the bread and said the blessing. Then he broke it and handed it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. But he had vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us as he talked to us on the road and explained the scriptures to us?" They set out that instant and returned to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 assembled together with their companions, who said to them, "Yes, it is true. The Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon." Then they told their story of what had happened on the road and how they had recognized him at the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. So as some of you may know, many of you may not, this last week, after finishing the marathon, I survived, I went on a leadership course, a church leadership course in South Kensington in London, to brush up my skills and learn a bit more. I think we can always, as Christians, learn more how to deepen our faith in Jesus, deepen our sense of discipleship, and how we become leaders in the Christian context and in the world around us. So I took advantage of an opportunity. One of the things I learned, or one of the things that was a real eye-opener to me, were all the different personas, or what were called sub-personalities that we exercise. I'll give you an example, and this is at my own expense. At the door on Sunday, you see smiling Father James. Yeah? Hello everyone, hug the children, shake hands, and it's all very nice. And that's very much me. I love to encounter people. I love to shake hands, and I love to see people. And it's nice to be close to my people. I love it. And yet there was one time when the tennis was on, I couldn't get away quick enough, because I also have a passion for Roger Federer and the way he plays. And he was in the Australian Open final. So that was the one day I didn't want to speak to anyone. I was like, the tennis is on TV, I want to get out of here straight away. So I ran in and I was indulging in another passion, which was watching the tennis. And I said to myself, I'm not answering the door, I'm not answering the phone, I'm going to ignore everyone, I don't care. Okay, so I sat down, and what happened? The doorbell rang. And all of a sudden, I won't say the word I said, but I shouted it really loud, like that. And then, as I walked to answer the door, because I had to answer the door, I walked past the dining room, and the lovely Legion of Mary were doing their prayers. And they had heard me say this word. So two personalities came together at once. There was like, Father, oh, hello, and then the other one, the one who was passionate about tennis and was being a bit, and it was a bit like, oh gosh, they've seen another side of me. But it caused me to laugh. I laugh at myself, because this happens in life, isn't it? We are one way with a certain set of friends, and we're different with another set of friends. We're different in all different contexts, and that's not a bad thing. People say, oh, that's hypocritical, but in fact, it's just how we are as human beings. As human beings, we are individuals, but we're made up almost like a team inside us. There's almost an internal team. And the best way to live our human life is to know which pair to select at each moment. And that's what happens with Jesus and these disciples, because they don't recognize him. Why don't they recognize him? What's different? What's different from a couple of days ago? A couple of days ago, Jesus was dead, and now he's alive. So obviously, they're not going to go, oh, hello, Jesus, you were dead a couple of days ago, good to see you. Of course they're not going to recognize him, because he is Jesus in his risen glory. And yet, it's still the same Jesus. It's still the same Jesus who died on the cross, but something is different. The fullness of his character, of his divinity, of his Godhead is revealed to them, and their eyes aren't ready for it. So he journeys alongside them. He asks them questions. He brings out their hopes, their dreams, and their despairs by asking them questions. He brings them out of themselves, because they say, we had a great passion for Jesus. We loved him, and now he's gone. And yet some people are saying he's risen from the dead, and yet we can't see it. Jesus journeys alongside them the whole way until the very end, when they remember something. As he breaks the bread, they remember, this is what happened 3 days ago at the Last Supper. This is what he used to do with us. This is what he did when he fed the 5,000. And then, all of a sudden, the stories, the memories, everything that made up the person they knew as Jesus comes together, and they recognize him. And then he disappears. They have come to witness the risen Jesus, the Jesus of all times and of all places, the one who had cried with them, the one who had laughed with them, the angry Jesus who had turned over the tables, the merciful Jesus who had went against all the cultures and conventions of his day, against the received wisdom of all those around him, even the apostles. They saw in this risen Jesus the whole person. Because Jesus is the perfect exercise of humanity. When Jesus gets angry, he gets angry at the right moment. He gets angry because of injustice, because of unfairness, because of a lack of love and a hardness of heart of people. When he cries, it's for the right reason. It's because his emotions have been touched. When he laughs at the right time. He never says a word out of place, even though, and we have it in our scriptures, don't we? Sometimes he says one thing, and then he says another, and we say they're contradictory, because they look contradictory. But it's just because Jesus is talking to one person and speaking to their heart at that time, and another person and their heart at that time. And don't we need different words like that in our lives? Don't we need different words from different people at different times to suit our moods and our feelings? You know, if you're a teenager, sometimes you need that kick up the bum to get out of bed. Get up, okay, to get to school, because that's what you need to succeed. Other times, when you're not feeling well, other times when things are not going so well, you need someone to say, stay there. Be who you are in this moment. And that's what Jesus does. That's what Jesus is. He knows us inside and out. He understands our emotions at each and every time, and he's ready for them, to receive them, but also ready with the right word. It teaches us that there is nothing, even the bits we don't like. You know that bit that caught out the passionate James who let out the word when the doorbell rang? Okay, I shouldn't have said that at that time. But that wasn't a bad side of me. That was just passion misdirected. I have to give that to the Lord and say, Lord, I've got this passion for this thing. Use it for your glory. Because you gave it to me. You gave it to me for your glory. Teach me how to use it. Jesus needs us to exercise the fullness of our humanity in each and every moment. But just like the disciples, we need to spend time with him, to learn from him, to listen to him, and let him listen to us, to open up our day and go through it in our minds and say, Lord, I'm going to be faced with so many different things. I have this meeting, that exam, that person to see. I need you in each and every single moment. So every part of me is exercised to its fullest potential. Every part of me stands in your glory and is filled with your spirit. That is the true mission of the disciples. Look how it changes the guys in this gospel, these disciples. They're walking on a 7-mile road. 7 miles is nothing once you've done a marathon. It's nothing. And they're depressed, and they're sad, and they're despondent. By the end of their meeting with Jesus, these same men who had their passions crushed, their hopes cast away, they're the ones running back to the apostles saying, the Lord is risen and we have recognized him in the breaking of the bread. They're still the same people, but Jesus has activated the very best of them and taken what was broken and put it back together and filled it with his loving grace. Let us trust the Lord to accept ourselves as we are, but also to know that as we are, in him can become perfect if we give it all to him. Amen.